Hey crafty people, welcome back to my channel, and in case you're new here, I'm Sarah, also known as Craft Nerd because I'm a nerd who loves to craft. I do paper crafting, card making, junk journaling, and mixed media art. Let's get crafting! So welcome to the first mystery craft video of 2024. So similar to the mystery distress ink color combo that I did, the beginning of the summer, I think, maybe. What I'm going to do is put a bunch of craft products that I have into my lovely Eeyore mug that I can no longer drink out of because I broke it and it makes me very sad, but I wasn't going to get rid of it. So I will use that for pulling names of craft supplies for the mystery challenge. Here is the list I am going to start with. I may add to it as we are going along, but I think there's more than a dozen, so it'll cover us for the entire year of 2024 and potentially into 2025, depending on how well this series goes and whether we like it or not. Will determine if I keep doing it next year. So I will leave this list down below, but here it is if you want to take a screenshot. I need to cut them all out. And what I did in creating them, if you want to create your own list to craft along with me and draw a mystery product and just craft as I am crafting, feel free to create your own list. If you want to use my list, I will leave it down below so you can use it. And I figured to ensure that all of the pieces are the same size, I created a table in Open Office because I'm not going to pay for the Microsoft suite of software for the few occasions when I need to type something up. So I created a chart with 2 columns so that each strip should be the same size. And so I will cut all those out, fold them over, and toss them into my mug. And basically what I did was I pulled out stuff either I picked up, planning on using, and haven't really used. Yupo, I have yet to use that. Or I have a ton of and I just don't use often enough, like Washi. And these are craft products I just need to play with more. So I'm going to cut these up, toss them in a cup, draw out a product, and then we are going to make something based on what we pull out of the cup. All right, so they're all in the mug. I'm going to stick my hand in and pull one out. Let's see. So try and pull just one out. All right, and we have got Distress Oxides. Alrighty. That works out pretty good since I got the new Tim Holtz Scorched Timber and I got it in a Distress Oxide, so that will let me play with it. I am going to do a little bit of prep, and by that I mean I am going to pull out some watercolor cardstock, trim it down to size that's a more manageable size to work with, and I don't think you need to watch me trimming paper, so I'm going to shut the camera off, do that. I'll come back when I've got the papers cut, and I'll pull out some Distress Oxides, and we'll have a bit of an inky play. Okay, so I have cut some Canson XL watercolor paper down to, they're 4.5 by 6 because the sheets I have are 12 by 9. So I just basically cut them down into 4 pieces per sheet. I also grabbed, I've got some player piano roll sheets. I figured let's give that a bit of a play. And I grabbed some packaging material because quite frankly, I have a ton of that and I need to start inking it up and using it because it's taken over my life. Pretty much we're just going to play around with Distress Oxides today. I am of course going to pull out the new Scorched Timber since I got that. And I have Uncharted Mariner, so we're going to play with that one for sure. Maybe a little, oh, this is tumbled craft. Do I not have Salvaged Patina? I don't think I have Salvaged Patina. I thought I did, but apparently I do not have Salvaged Patina in Distress Oxide. Huh, interesting. That was an oversight on my part. I recently picked up some Distress Oxides and I thought I had picked up Salvaged Patina, but I didn't. But I do have it in Distress Oxide spray, so I may pull that out as well. I do have it in spray. Okay, which might be why I decided not to get it in ink. So I think we're gonna put the tumble glass away and give these colors a bit of a play first. So we'll start with the watercolor paper. I've got my silicone matte, and so probably should have cleaned it off some more, but dog hair adds interest, right? Ooh, I've got to watch that. That's like spritzed it everywhere. Let's do that. And do a little smooshing with the Uncharted Mariner. I think I may get the paper wetter so stuff moves around a little bit. Then let's add some Scorched Earth to our mat, and it's not going to harm the pad if I get it in the Uncharted Mariner. Not a biggie. I'm just doing that to break up the hard lines of the ink, because otherwise you'll get hard lines on your piece, and if you don't want that, I think heat tool time. I am liking this color combo a lot. Add some more on there. And let's add some water droplets. Now I'm holding my sprayer a good distance away, pulling slowly so I get bigger droplets. And I'm gonna hit it with my heat tool again. All right, and I want to add a little bit of the Salvaged Patina onto this, but I don't feel like pulling out my splat box. So we're gonna try just using a little bit straight from the tube edge. But I also have a little pipette. So we're gonna see what we can do playing with that. And what I'm gonna do is, so I kind of got it to start drying with my heat tool, and I'm gonna come in with paper towel and see what happens if I dab it. Well, that wasn't as dry as I was hoping, but that's okay. All right, we're gonna add more heat. Just gonna come in and dab it off a little bit, and then add a little bit more. And do a little bit more dabbing. Am I on screen? I don't know. I think I should be now. All right, I think a little bit more water sprayed on. That was where I was trying to get it, and now I got way more water there than I wanted. That's okay. Okay, I'm just gonna set this guy aside to dry and grab another sheet to clean up what's already on my table here. And actually what I'm gonna do is I'll grab a sheet of the, what is this stuff? Packing paper. And we'll just use that to clean up what's on the table. All right, I want to try some different colors. Let's pull out, let's go with some yellows. So I've got Fossilized Amber and Lemon Squeeze. And let's see what happens if we add a little brushed corduroy to that mix. figure this will work for something for the bee journals I'm working on. Let's just see what happens. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have some seriously inky fingers today. But quite frankly, I find a day where my fingers are all inky kind of a good day. I don't like this combo. Let's do a few drops of water. Give it a sec. I'm just gonna do that. Which I don't know how well it's showing up on screen, but ooh, I really like this color combo. And I'm not big on yellows. Like they're definitely not a go-to color for me, but I like this. All right, let's clean this up. We're definitely gonna have some interesting collage fodder. And I did have an idea of something I want to do with the Distress Oxide inks. So I'm going to do a cleanup. And we're gonna take one of our pieces. I'm gonna grab a blending brush. Because I've got a honeycomb stencil. And what I think I'm gonna wanna do is ink the stencil, spritz it with water, and then apply it to our piece. So I'm going to do some squeezed lemonade. And some fossilized amber on here. I think that will be really cool. Now, I was watching, and I don't even remember who I was watching. I think it was Maybe. If you hold your brush further back and allow it to move more, you're going to have a softer blend than if you hold it close up. So that is just something to keep in mind when you are using makeup brushes to blend your inks. And I'm going to add a little bit more of the squeezed lemonade. And because the fossilized amber is darker, I've just dampened my paper towel over here and wiped some of it off because I don't think each color needs its own brush. I go kind of color family. So I've got a yellow brush, orange, red, green, that kind of thing. But if you use a darker color, you're going to want to clean it off a little bit before you go to a lighter color, just because there will be some left on the brush and you'll end up having the darker color everywhere. You know, it'll end up being darker than what you are looking for if you're switching to a lighter color, if that makes any sense. All right. As much as I would love to continue this play, I need to go get ready for my hair appointment. So that I'm not late to that. So I will come back after that and we will play a little bit more with our Distress Oxide inks. Okay, so as I said, for this one, what I want to do is ink up this honeycomb stencil, which is by Echo Park. I don't know what its number might be, but we are gonna ink that up using, let's use a Scorched Timber. I think, you know, I want to play with it. And so I'm going to, and I've got just plain cardstock underneath that I'm gonna use, because why waste the ink? Since I want to ink the stencil, I might as well ink a piece of paper. All right, so I'm gonna set this aside. I now have an inky stencil, and let me do a little bit of cleanup over here so I don't get this on the other piece. What I'm gonna do is spritz this with water to activate the ink on it. Dry this off, and then I'm gonna take this piece and basically flip the stencil over, and I probably should have put more ink on here than I did just because the piece of cardstock I cut smaller than this piece, but that's all right. Good enough. I'm using a paper towel to help smoosh it down. And what we should get is the hexagon pattern on our piece. And so kind of like that. What I will probably do is come in and add a little bit of the Scorched Timber along our edges. And then I am going to add some water on, and I think to control this a little bit more, I'm gonna stick my fingers in and flick some on. Give it a minute to activate the ink, and then go like that. And I feel like I want to do something else to it, but I don't know what yet, so I'm going to set that aside for a little while. All right, if you watched my Distress Color Combo, Mystery Color Combo Challenge, you know Aged Mahogany and Ice Spruce was a Distress ink combo that I really liked, so I kind of want to play with it in the Oxides. So let's smoosh some of this Iced Spruce down. That, and this time I'm going to start with my paper wet, so just spritz that off camera a little bit. I think I want it a little wetter, so we're gonna just add some more water. Let's try drying that. Add a little bit more on. Dry that and clean this up. And now let's add some aged mahogany. Aged mahogany. Whew. Let's add some spritzes of water. And I think we're gonna pull out the heat gun. Try it a little bit, and then, I don't know how well you can see that on the screen. Tap it with the paper towel. And so you get areas like this where you've got it darker around the edge and not so much in the center. So I like it, but I think I liked it better in the Distress ink. And I also think I want to add some more ice spruce on here. Although actually I was toying with the idea of adding in perhaps some weathered wood and see what that does. I kind of like it. Is it wrong that I'm sitting here thinking it needs a little scorched timber? I'm kind of toying with the idea of adding a little bit of scorched timber in here. Let's do it. What's the worst that could happen? I don't love how it turns out. That's fine. I can always cut it up, do stuff with it. Ooh, that's a little bit more scorched timber than I wanted. Let's do that. That's interesting. Which it kind of faded away as it's drying, but it had like the texture pattern from the paper towel on it. Not too bad. I don't know, I maybe should have stopped before adding the scorched timber. And I'm just adding some droplets of water because why not? So I just added some of the scorched timber that was on here to this one and spritzed it with a little water, and I'm just going to let that air dry. I don't know, the colors are kind of interesting. I'm not sure what the heck I'm going to use this on, but I kind of like it. And let's see. Add that to this cleanup sheet. Since I'm basically using the packaging material to clean up my desk. Our next color combo, I want to play with Victorian Velvet and peeled paint and see what we get with that. Now, Victorian Velvet in the Distress ink is like one of the colors I first got, and I didn't love it because it was not the kind of pink I was looking for. I was looking for more like sponge sugar, probably more like a kitsch flamingo. But I've been playing around with it again recently, at least in the Distress ink, and have been really enjoying it because I thought it would go good for the sewing journals, the kits I have. It kind of matches the pinks in there. So that kind of inspired me to pick up the Distress Oxide. Just dabbing off a little bit, and I'm going to do a little bit more, and then we're going to put some green on here. And we're going to do a light mist in the water. Get some of that green moving around a little bit. And I want to add some brown to this. I think I'm gonna go with, I think we did not get Vintage Photo in Distress Oxide. Let me see if I have that in the spray. All right, so I do have Vintage Photo in the Distress Oxide spray. So we're just gonna and take a little from the bottle and put it on the mat. That's way too much. Woo! We're gonna spritz it with water and try and get it to shift around. There we go, a little bit. And fingers crossed. And I'm definitely gonna do a little spritzy. Let's put a little bit up there and there. There. I think now I want more Victorian Velvet. And a little bit of spritzing. And the heat gun. Interesting. All right, I'm gonna set that one aside. I am gonna pull back in this guy, and what I kind of want to do is give it a little bit more texture by crinkling it up. Undo it. And swipe some ink on. Some fossilized amber on there too. Do a little Scorched Timber. And then we're gonna spritz it a little bit, see what happens. All right, I'm gonna add some more ink onto my table, and we're gonna just go with all the colors. I think I put some brushed corduroy on the one, so let's add some of that on my fingers, and then a little bit of Scorched Timber here and there. and see what happens. Just trying to get the edges a little bit more. All right, we're gonna set that aside. Let's get a little bit more ink on the blue and brown one. Of course, I put the ink on my thing and I wanted to ink my crumpled bits first, because then even when it flattens out, you still end up having the ink marks showing where it was crumpled. So I kind of like that effect. So we're just gonna do the best we can, having inked up the surface already of my craft desk with adding some ink directly to the page. And I don't mind that they're mixing together and making a new color. I'm fine with that. All right, there's one last thing I want to do before I actually do. I think I want to finish a piece off or two. So I'm going to take some of this paper and I'm actually going to trim it down because it's a little unwieldy because it all rolled up and it keeps rolling in on itself. It's kind of tearing itself right about there, so we're going to do that. I'm going to pull out this piece first, and I think I want some Hickory Smoke. And I don't want to add too much water because I don't think this is going to hold up to a lot of wet. Just a little spritz. And now I'm gonna pull in, let's try a little rusty hinge. That is very orangey. We are gonna be toning that down. I just added a little brush corduroy to the table. All right, I want a little more Hickory Smoke down at the bottom because I'm probably going to use this strip for what I have in mind next. So I want to add a little more of the Hickory Smoke back down there. And then maybe a little weathered wood tossed in. All right, this is getting very interesting. I think I'm gonna clean this up. I want to add a little of the Uncharted Mariner and see where we are. All right, let's get a little Uncharted Mariner on there. So I think we're gonna turn this into a journaling card and use a piece of this, I think. Maybe? Not sure. Thought I was gonna like it, but trying to get it to flatten out a little bit, which spraying the back will usually help with that, but it's gonna then dry. All right, I'm gonna let this dry and flatten out a little bit more. I think this is not gonna go so well on there. I'm gonna have a little bit of think about what I wanna do, but I definitely wanna finish up maybe this one and this guy. So we'll leave that to dry and I will come back and we will turn these into journaling cards. So, okay, so it's the next day. I had a bit of a think about what I wanted to do for decorating some of the backgrounds we created. And so I pulled out some bits and bobs. You might recognize this gentleman. I created the background with the Distress Mystery ink color combo video. And then die cut out the gentleman for the card for my dad. So he's made a few appearances in a couple videos, and he's the last one. I'm gonna have to make more of these guys because having them ready-made has been quite handy. Because he was also in the steampunky Christmas card for the 12 days of Christmas cards. This is My Porch Prince printable, and I made this in my recent video doing faux rust and faux leather. Now I want to, and I picked, this is a Idea-ology hardware head, and the problem is color-wise it's just not, doesn't work for me with this. But what I'm thinking is if I add a little distress antique bronze to everything, I can add a little to the hardware head, and then that will tie it together with the clock piece. Although first I want to figure out, I'm going to situate the clock piece about there. I'm going to put a little sliver of this here, and he's going to stand down here, and I need a label-y thing for there. So I'm trying to think, what I want to do is, let's actually shift this over a little bit more, and then we'll cut this off and save it to use on another piece. So I've had a rather exciting morning. As I was getting ready to sit down and start filming, I figured I should go outside and check on my dog, only to find he had escaped out of the yard again. And normally when he does this, I'm able to catch him like roundabout at the end of the block, and it's no big deal, and I just shake the treat jar, he comes running over, and I get him back home. But this is the second occasion in which I apparently didn't locate him soon enough. So I did that. I'm trying to decide what I want to do next. All right, we're going to do a little bit of the distress paint, and I grabbed antique bronze. I'm just going to put a little on my craft mat off to the side. Grab a dry paintbrush and kind of add a little in spots on our rusty clock face and just kind of smoosh it around a little bit. But as I was saying, this is the second time it has happened where he has gotten away and completely disappeared. Like, I spent a good 45 minutes driving around my neighborhood with the window rolled down. And of course, this is one of the coldest days this winter. So that was less than fun for me, driving with my windows down, calling him, shaking the tree jar, nothing. So I finally decided to head home, take a break from trying to locate him, maybe post on social media that he has gone missing. So I pull into my driveway, I'm gathering my stuff, turn off the engine, step out of my car, or open the door to step out of my car, and he comes running up to me, and he has this look on his face like, "Mom, where have you been? I would like to go in the house now." So he's back home, safe and sound. Passed out on his dog bed because, you know, he had wild adventures. All right, I want to attach this down before I ink the hardware head. But before I do that, I want to do a little background stamping. And I picked up this recently. It's a Studio Light clear stamp, and it's Gothic script. So I'm going to just, heck, I'll leave it on the backing paper. I'm going to grab some of the Scorched Timber, and I just want to kind of stamp randomly in a few spots. Perhaps get a little bit more ink on the stamp. That's the stamp side, right? Yeah. There we go. Just to kind of add a little texture and interest to the background. And I ink down at the bottom of the stamp and stamp some over here. So we're just adding a little bit more texture to our very textury background from doing all of our inking. I think I'm also going to pull out, I got from it's Creative Expressions, but it's their woodware craft collection, and this stamp set is, it's FRS 994, and I don't know what that, oh, Inky Numbers. And I think I'm going to use this big guy over here. And just again, I'm not even going to bother with the Stampin' Block. I'm just going to ink it up a little. And stamp, none too straight. Because, yeah, it's not, I'm not trying to get like a perfect clear impression. I'm just trying to add a little detail into our background. All right, I think that's good. And we're going to go ahead and glue the clock on. And I want to stick just a little bit of this on there. So I think I'm going to use this line to trim off. And I don't have my big scissors over here. Darn it. I don't feel like pulling out my paper trimmer. I've been toying with the idea of getting a small guillotine trimmer for doing stuff like this. But I have not yet made up my mind on that. All right, I'm just gonna grab some Vintage Photo Distress ink and ink my edges. Gonna do the same for my gentleman. Although as I'm doing this, I'm thinking I kind of want to do it with the Scorched Timber and pull some of that in on him. So I may do that as well. Yeah, I really like that. So this is the Scorched Timber Distress Oxide, since that's what we used in creating the background. And I'm going a little heavy-handed, getting a little on here because it's going to tie it in better with our background. All right, let's start by gluing this on. And then we can get the placement of the clock hands and glue them down. Well, I guess it's a good thing I didn't bother painting that since I apparently don't need it after all. All right, let's go ahead and glue this down. I am, of course, using art glitter glue. You can use whatever you like. I'm not going to glue his feet down all the way because I need to grab something to put underneath so that he's not floating up in the air. I think I'm going to use this, but it definitely needs to get inked because it is way too white to go on here. So I think I'm going to ink it with some antique linen. I'm going to grab a scrap piece of paper and a brush. And ink that up so that it is not ridiculously white. And again, I'm going to do the edges with some Scorched Timber. I'm going to glue it down, and then I'll glue his feet the rest of the way down. I do want to round my corners and ink the edges, so I'm going to do that. And I'm using my We Are Memory Keepers corner rounder at the 1/4 inch. And again, some Scorched Timber. So there's that guy finished, and I did pick out some bits and bobs to finish off 2 more of them. Let's set that guy aside, pull over this one. So the B is Clip Art Treasury. This is by Leanna Scraps, and the stamps are Iopa. I will leave links to everything down below. This is the Tim Holtz Vintage Label die set, and I used Fossilized Amber archival ink on it, but I do kind of want to tone this down a little bit, so I think I'm gonna ink it up with some antique linen again. Just like how antique linen makes it less white without going too far into the brown range. Like, it just knocks back the brightness of a white. And to help the edges stand out, again, I'm gonna use some Scorched Timber and just ink the edges a little bit. So that's gonna go round about there. With that going like that, I think I'm gonna add some antique linen to tamp down the white of the areas between, because I really don't feel like fussy cutting those out. And actually, let's pull scrap paper back. I'm just gonna go over the whole thing to knock back any white that's showing in lieu of inking the edges. So yeah, antique linen is one of the more recent additions to my distress ink collection, and I am really enjoying it. Like, I've found it very useful for things like this. So there we go. All right, we've got some more edges that need inking. And for these guys, I want to do some Fossilized Amber. And I'm using Distress Oxide because I actually only have Fossilized Amber in Distress Oxide. All right, let's lay this out again. That's gonna go there. My bee is gonna go about there. That goes here. Maybe a little further over. And then we've got 1 stamp, 2 stamps. Yep, I think I like that. So actually what I'm gonna do is grab this guy and add a little glue in the spots that I know are overlapping stuff. Then I'll pick this guy up and glue that corner down. So now I should be able to pick the whole thing up, and I can just lift spots to add glue where there's overhang. And I know I didn't put too much glue or any glue. And then I can just glue like this, which kind of beats pulling the whole thing apart and then not getting it back where you had it laid out, because that happens a lot. So this way, it's all glued together as we laid it out. And it can go on like that. Something seems not quite straight. Oh well. Too late now, it's all glued together. Let's see, we need a little glue there. But there we go. I am gonna, again, round corners. Re-ink the corners, because I'm pretty sure I added ink to the edges of this one. So there's another one done. And then one last one. And the pinks and the greens. All right, I am gonna grab out, what do I want? Peeled paint. And Victorian Velvet, because those are the colors I use. So those are the colors I want to ink these things with. All right, so I am gonna ink the edges of the back piece with the peeled paint. I actually think I'm gonna sit it down here, kind of go over the whole thing with the Victorian Velvet. Now this is either My Porch Prints or Leanna Scraps. This is definitely My Porch Prints. These are bits and bobs I stamped using, I believe, Tim Holtz stamp sets, although that might be a sample Creative Expressions, and this is Abertique. I will leave links and the list of everything down below. Well, probably not the specific stamp sets because that's going to take a little while to hunt out, but maybe, if time permits. But for the digitals, I'll leave those all linked down below for sure. Because pretty much all you have to do is use whatever stamps you have to make little bits and bobs like that. All right. Again, corners. And that one's done. Okay, so let's take a look at everything we did. So we've got our collage fodder made out of packing material. So this is our yellows, our blues and browns. This is the pink and green one. I'm probably going to do some more to that because, yeah, there's not a whole heck of a lot of ink on that. But we've got that for collage fodder. Oh, and I forgot the aged mahogany ice spruce one as well. So we've got our collage fodder strips over here. The backgrounds we got done that we haven't done anything with. So I've got this one, which will probably be another bee-themed journaling card, which is using the Fossilized Amber and Squeezed Lemonade and Fired Brick and Brush Corduroy, I think, for the colors. And our Ice Spruce and Aged Mahogany one. And then this was a cleanup one. I don't even remember what I was cleaning up. And then we did a bit of the piano strip, which I am not loving the colors on these. I'll probably play around with it some more to try and change that up into something I like better. But we'll see. And I was actually having so much fun. I did do a couple off camera. This is Abandoned Coral and Squeezed Lemonade Oxides. And this is pretty much all of my blues. So I think it's Tumbled Glass, Peacock Feather, Uncharted Mariner, Mermaid Lagoon, and I feel like there's one more. And Broken China. So I did a couple off screen because I was having so much fun with this. And then we have the three we turned into journaling cards, or they could become pockets. If I turn them into journaling cards, I'll probably put some coffee dyed paper on the back to cover up the gunky inkiness that got there. So we've got our peeled paint and Victorian Velvet, one for a sewing journal. We've got our Squeezed Lemonade, Fossilized Amber, and Scorched Timber, where we inked the stencil and put that on. Oh, we also have the piece we created when we were inking the stencil that I'm probably going to use some distress ink in yellow over top with a brush to kind of finish that off probably. So that's for a bee journal. And then our steampunky one using Uncharted Mariner and the Scorched Timber. And I think we had a little Salvaged Patina in there. So there we go. That's what we got today with our mystery craft item. If you enjoyed this video, please do all the things that lets YouTube know you enjoyed the video. Hit that thumbs up button and give me a like. Subscribe, which is free for you. You don't have to pay anything. You just have to hit the little subscribe button. And if you hit the notification bell, you'll get notified when I post new videos. And as always, feel free to leave me a comment down below. If you've got questions, suggestions, let me know if you like the idea of the mystery craft. Thanks for joining me, and happy crafting.